Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Denver. Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Hall of Famer Luis Scott Vargas, and we are underway.
And we've got a hand cam
in the
here.
finals, and we get to see the hand immediately thanks to Turn 1 Thoughtseize from Matt Sperling. What do you see here, Luis?
Well, there's a Bioblade, a Thoughtseize, and Dig Through Time, as well as 4 lands, 2 of which come to play tapped. So, it really depends on Sperling's hand, as these things tend to do.
Right.
I could see him taking any of these 3 cards. If he's taking a Dig Through Time, it's not a great sign. It just means he has a slow hand. Though if he's got a hand of, let's say, 2 Abzan Charms and a couple creatures, I could see him taking Dig, trading creatures for removal spells, and then casting Abzan Charms to get ahead.
Okay.
If he has a fast hand, I could see taking like the Bioblade or the Thoughtseize. If he has let's say he has 2 Fleecemane Lions, and he just wants to take one of the threats. Looks like he's just going to take the Dig Through Time though.
Matt Sperling plays 11 2-drop creatures in the deck, 3 Rakshasa Death Dealer, not running the full 4. Instead, he has 4 Heir of the Wilds and then the 4 Fleecemane Lion. So Andrew's not going to bother with the Thoughtseize on turn 1. He's going to go ahead and play Temple of Deceit, chip the turn back. Another Thoughtseize off the top here for Sperling.
Yeah, if Sperling had, say, taken Bioblade, I would have expected Andrew to Thoughtseize on turn 1 because he no longer has an answer to Sperling's turn 2 play. But because Sperling has a Death Dealer, it's just going to die to Bioblade. He didn't take the Bioblade, and Andrew now gets to wait on the Thoughtseize and cast the Thoughtseize a little bit later. Sperling elects to play the Death Dealer. I think he's fine trading it for the Bioblade, is my assumption.
He is certainly signing up for that. And I don't think Andrew's going to turn him down.
No, it looks like Andrew's going to run the Thoughtseize.
Andrew is going to turn him down and run the Thoughtseize out there. That's interesting.
I think Andrew's worried about Anafenza because Andrew's hand can't kill an Anafenza right now. He's drawn a Perilous Vault, which means if he doesn't die too quickly, he's got a way to stabilize. And now he's just doing the same thing that Sperling did. He's just taking the high end. He just took the most expensive card, happens to be Siege Rhino. He does have to know that Sperling is going to get to Thoughtseize again, and if he only has the Bioblade to answer the Death Dealer, then he's going to end up having no answer to that. He's going to take a few hits from it. But Sperling doesn't have a ton of black mana either, so it's hitting for 4 a turn if Sperling taps out. That's not the end of the world.
And it also means that Sperling doesn't get to develop his board, which I'm sure is something that Andrew Brown would be quite happy to see.
And he likes seeing that Bioblade. That's about as dead as the cards get.
Right.
So Sperling elects not to Thoughtseize. Instead, I think his plan is to blank the Bioblade by just never tapping out, because he has nothing else to play anyway.
Sure. It does mean, though, that he only gets to hit for 2 that turn instead of 4.
It does.
It looks like he's going to only get to hit for 2 this turn as well.
Well, let's see if he'll stay the course. Now he's drawn Heir of the Wilds. He could just cast Thoughtseize. Andrew Bioblades in response, then you cast Heir, but I think he's just waiting. I would say he's erring on the side of caution here. And here Sperling's definitely playing for a long game. He Thoughtseizes the Dig. He wants to blank Andrew's Bioblade by not tapping out, though it's not working out all that well.
More Heir of the Wilds off the top for Sperling. Not the card he wants to see. And I got to say, I mean, you said Sperling might be playing for the long game here, but isn't that kind of exactly what Andrew Brown wants?
It is, and Sperling's just drawing Heir at this point. He's just missing every turn.
The air ball?
Yeah. Basically what Sperling wants to draw is like an Urborg. So then he gets to cast Thoughtseize, leave Death Dealer up, but Andrew's fine just taking 2 a turn. I mean, this does play into his hands. I think Andrew has drawn reasonably well since then. He now has a Dig Through Time, which he can sack Bloodstained Mire to cast Dig if he wants. Now he has an opportunity to Bioblade the Rakshasa. He actually may want to also Bioblade here before Sperling has a chance to play a land.
He's thinking about it.
Yeah, he gets to respond to his own negate. I like that.
There you go.
Sperling then has nothing else to play except Heir of the Wilds. He's going to go ahead and likely get a Plains with the Windswept Teeth here.
Yeah. Andrew Brown has been a pretty cool customer in the feature match area the whole time. He's no stranger here.
Yeah, like I said, I watched him play before, and he's very stoic.
Yeah.
And he knows how to play. Like he's played quite well.
Yes.
And if you were to tell me that someone who, let's say I had not watched play a bunch, had made the top 8 of the finals of a Grand Prix with playing Blue-Black Control, my guess is that they would know how to pilot it quite well. Blue-Black, I think, is one of those decks that, first of all, if you don't know how to play it well, you're going to do way worse with it than, say, a deck like Abzan. There's obviously skill in both, but Blue-Black is much more punishing. And I think that's actually a strike against Blue-Black. I think they have the same matchup win percentage when played well, let's say. But Blue-Black is just you lose way more if you don't know how to sequence everything, because all
Right.
of its answers are so specific.
Yeah.
Also, blue-black is, in general, I think, a deck with a slightly worse expectation in the dark, unless you've tuned it a lot, played it a lot.
This has been interesting. Effectively, what Matt Sperling has done is played grizzly bears. He's just
that's all he's done.
That's all he's done so far is played bears. Andrew is at 10. He's done some amount of work here, but Sperling can't feel good about the way that this game 1 has started.
No, now Andrew's going main phase, Bioblight, the Heir of the Wilds, then tap out to cast Dig Through Time, but still pays the extra mana into Dig, setting up another Dig. And he could actually, if he really wanted to go big, he could take Dig, Pearl Lake Ancient here, or he could take like Pearl Lake Ancient and like a removal spell if he was worried about, Sperling could play a Siege Runner this turn. He's got to be aware of that fact.
Sure. Sperling with a quick double check there just to make sure that the correct amount of cards were going to the bottom. Just doing a due diligence there for Matt. And, he had a game plan of some sort going early. I don't think it would have been his number 1 choice, but the fact that he has just continued to miss land drops here has really become a major issue for Sperling. I mean, he's still on the grizzly bear plan here.
Yeah, I mean,
Marshall would getting brutal.
Marshall's, would be very happy. Oh, there's an Interpret the Signs. So, for those unfamiliar with the card, Brown gets to scry 3.
I didn't know he had that in his deck.
Then at the end of scrying 3, reveal his top card and draw cards equal to its converted mana cost. So here he got to scry 3, put 1 on the bottom, reveal Hero's Downfall, and draw 3 cards.
Wow.
The combo here is to interpret the signs and then into Dig Through Time and draw the full
Is that 8?
But even hitting Hero's Downfall for 3 or Perilous Vault for 4, it's not Sphinx's Revelation, but it's what we got.
Yeah, and Pearl Lake Ancient is another one that he can randomly hit there to just draw a whole bunch of cards. Wow. All right, well, here's Anafenza. Finally, Matt Sperling has a board state that is ready to rumble here, and actually, it would just kill Andrew. So yeah. Sperling, while all he's done is cast effectively Grizzly Bears. Oh, well, that's going to set things back. Silence the Believers will shut down that plan. And finally, a land off the top for Sperling, so he gets to play a Siege Rhino here and drop Andrew Brown down to 5. I mean, it's felt like Andrew's been in the driver's seat the whole time, but Sperling has been just steadily whittling away at his life total.
He has, but Blue-Black has the ability to, at some point, stop your opponent from ever doing anything relevant.
Yes.
If you have the time. And Andrew, he kind of has the time. He's got a Hero's Downfall for the Siege Rhino. He's got Dissolve and Negate for future spells. He's got a Perilous Vault if things get too out of control. And I believe he just drew another Dig Through Time. So I still think he's in okay shape here.
Okay. He's at 5, passes the turn back to Sperling. And, all right, Fleece Main Lion. That one can be a real pill for the blue-black control deck if he gets it to monsters. I don't think that's going to happen here, though.
It is, but Andrew can now, end of turn, cast Dig Through Time. I think he's going to want to delve extra, especially since he doesn't have very many digs left. I think this might be his 3rd so far.
He might just wipe out his graveyard. It doesn't matter if he has none left.
And look for another Hero's Downfall or Bioblight to kill the line, and then untap and be able to play Pearl Lake Ancient. The good thing is Pearl Lake Ancient also deals with a monstrous Fleeceman.
It does. Quite nicely.
So Andrew Brown is leaving 1 card in his graveyard, but still delving enough such that he can cast Bioblight if he hits it. So 3, 6, 8. So one more
mana from Perilous Vault and activate as well.
Yeah, or Pearl Lake Ancient negate your Hero's Downfall, which is a nice one too. So I think, no matter, he could peel the 4th Dig Through Time, but I don't think we're in that spot. He's already got Pearl Lake Ancient. There's a limit to what the converted mana cost of spells you can have in your hand is, or so I've been told.
I don't think that you respect that limit in any way.
How many shows are we allowed to do in a row about 7 drops? Because there's a lot. There's a lot to talk
about the perils of playing them and about how you shouldn't play them? We can do a lot of shows about that.
Not
That's
that.
not what you had in mind?
I'm just planning ahead.
0.
Radiant Fountain, nice one here.
That's not too bad.
Making it so Fleece Main Line with Monstrous isn't lethal if that comes up.
Sure. Also down the line, he can use that with the Pearl Lake Ancient to bolster his life total further against things like Siege Rhino.
Sorin the draw for Matt Sperling, which a good card in general in this matchup, but I don't think really what you want, especially since this looks like a blowout. Sperling,
wow. And Sperling didn't find the land either.
No, so now he's going to go for the Hero's Downfall. It's going to get negated.
Yeah, you talked about this play a minute ago.
Most importantly, the Pearl Lake Action got prowess, so now now it's a 7-8.
It's a 7.
I assume is why Matt Sperling conceded there.
I don't think it is. Matt Sperling loses game 1 to Andrew Brown. Matt had some pretty savage mana problems, and I mean, look, he played a strong game. He got him down pretty low, but at the end of the day, when you're on 3 mana for 5 turns in a row or whatever, you are not going to be able to do much against an opponent who is consistently hitting their mana drops and playing much, much more expensive spells. So,
yeah, when you're in a spot where you only have 1 creature, part of it, Matt did choose to run the, Rakshasa, attack, no pump, attack, no pump, attack, no pump.
Yes, that is true.
And I think it was kind of, he did that predicated on drawing a black mana source in the first 3 or 4 turns, which he just missed on completely.
Right.
And given that, his game plan ended up playing right into what Andrew wanted, which is, I'll take 8 damage to draw a bunch of cards and play a bunch of lands.
Right, and that's one skill that you'll see really often with control players like Andrew, is they know just how far they can push that life total before they need to put the brakes on and have to answer everything.
Yeah, if you think about it, every deck has a Yawgmoth's Bargain built in. Yawgmoth's Bargain lets you pay 1 life to draw a card.
Yeah.
You can actually, Andrew was paying 2 life to draw a card there.
He was.
In the sense that every card he draws is better than the cards Matt draws when they're both doing nothing.
Right.
Not by a ton. The Abzan Mid-Range deck has a good late game too.
It does.
Or the Aggro deck even, but it still is advantageous for blue-black.
Right. Now you can see the players are taking a look at those pieces of paper. Those are their opponent's deck lists. They actually get a chance to see those in between games, just because they get made public at some point. So it's just in the interest of fairness, and so that they both get to see them. And it does make sideboarding kind of an interesting game. It's already interesting, right? Sideboarding is one of those things where there can be leveling happening. There can be very standard, oh, this is what you bring in this matchup and this is what you don't. But when you actually get to see exactly the cards that they have, it can change things a lot. Now, I'm looking at the sideboards right now, and looking at Andrew Brown's sideboard, he's got Jorabai Murklurker. Now, this is an aggressive deck he's facing.
And he sided them in against Matt Sperling.
We did see him
earlier in the tournament, and they didn't look fantastic.
They didn't look very good.
They might be better than something like Thoughtseize. Like, Ben and I heard you and Ben also talking at length about Thoughtseize in different kind of matchups.
Yes.
And Matt Sperling's deck is the kind of deck that Thoughtseize does not always shine against. So it might be better than Thoughtseize to side in, which would justify it, but it's not the kind of card that's a 10 out of 10 sideboard card.
Right, and looking down the line, I see that that Andrew's got Liliana Vest, Prognostic Sphinx, a pair of Thoughtseize extra from the ones that he has, and he's also got Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. This is an interesting one because we've seen players like Andrew Brown bring in Ashiok against decks like Sperling's, but Ben Stark was saying earlier he actually doesn't like it against those type of decks.
No, I think that's it's not the best here. I mean, Sperling's creatures just hit for too much. And it looks like we're about ready to kick off Game 2 of the finals here at Grand Prix Denver, though Matt Sperling, I believe, is taking a mulligan. Andrew Brown is content with his 7. So one of the problems I have with Ashiok is when you're on the play and you play it to an empty board, it can be awesome.
Yes.
I mean, when you +2 it and hit a 3-drop or a Siege Rhino, especially against an opponent who may have to side out some number of Heroes Downfalls, fantastic. When they have a Fleece Main line, you play an Ashiok, doesn't do that much. It's like a slow gain 7.
Right.
Which, I'm not in love with.
Right, and Andrew Brown, generally speaking, won't have really any creatures to speak of to get in the way of, to protect Ashiok, so Ashiok just ends up being vulnerable to any and all threats that Matt Sperling plays. And Matt Sperling deck is very threat dense. If you look, it's a straight sort of creature curve deck that goes from 2 to 5 and has some disruption built into it. It's a pretty straightforward deck as far as that goes. Oh, look at the hand cams.
Yeah.
All right, we're underway. How does Sperling's hand
I like
look?
the hand cams. I don't like Matt Sperling's hand as much.
Right.
I think
little land heavy
I think
there,
keeping it
or?
on 6 is very justifiable, but Murderous Cut, Abzan Charm, Siege Rhino, 3 lands is really not what you're looking for. I mean, I think you have to keep it, just because if you scry into a 2-drop, then the hand is very acceptable, but Murderous Cut's like one of your worst cards, and Abzan Charm and Siege Rhino cost 3 and 4 mana.
Why is Murderous Cut in there?
Because I think Sperling likes it more than Heroes Downfall because it's often cheaper, And it can still kill Jar by Murklurker and Pearl Lake Ancient.
Okay.
Remember, he played against Andrew before and saw Andrew side in Murklurkers.
He did, yeah.
And if Andrew taps out for a Murklurker and Sperling gets to, on let's say turn 5, cast Murderous Cut Siege Rider, that's not that bad.
It's not bad, though. I do wonder, though, Matt Sperling can also just ignore Jurbai Murklurker in many capacities. Like, on Offensive gets by it, Rakshasa Death Dealer gets by it. If Andrew Brown starts attacking him with a Murklurker and activating it, Sperling can just shrug and say, sure, you're hitting me for 2 and gaining 2, and I'm going to hit you for 6 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't match up enough against any of Sperling's creatures.
Yeah, just
so,
not even the Heir of the Wilds.
Yeah, from that perspective, you know, I'm not in love with Murklurker, but it could also be that Sperling just did, you know, had nothing else to sideboard in, because his sideboard is pretty tuned towards, you know, decks like Sidisi Whip or other aggressive decks.
All right, you mentioned this scenario.
Yeah, here's where Ashiok looks fantastic.
This is where she looks. Yeah, Ashiok looks fantastic because no board, and there's an Heir of the Wilds. Now, how aggressive would you be here with using Ashiok to start just getting creatures on the battlefield?
Well, I don't think you're ever going to get an ultimate Ashiok to kill Sperling's hand, just because if you're in that position, I think you're just winning the game by a landslide anyway. His hand can't be good. So I'd be pretty aggressive, especially if you don't know if he's got Hero's Downfall in his deck. Like, I would be surprised. I mean, if Andrew can kill Sperling's next creature, maybe he doesn't on a minus, but just putting an Heir of the Wilds into play is awesome.
It's good. It's like minimum 1-for-1.
2/2 Death Touch. It just trades for anything Sperling has.
Right.
Except, I guess, a monstrous line or Rakshasa. So, not everything, but most things.
Yeah.
Also everything.
Yeah, I think that when I've seen Ashiok used the best is when people are pretty aggressive about getting value off of Ashiok immediately. Like, here's a nice turn for Sperling. He found some 2-drops. They weren't on turn 2, but on turn 4 he's actually played 2
Yeah,
of
and he
them
chose
here.
to play Abzan Charm on 3 instead of playing a Rakshasa. He chose to just end of turn Abzan Charm, draw 2 cards, and then untap and play 2 2-drops, just for mana efficiency. So now here Andrew's in the spot. He's in a pretty good spot where even if he can't deal with Sperling's threats this instant, Ashiok's still at least a 1-for-1, because he still gets to put Heir of the Wilds into play.
Sure.
You just resign yourself to the fact that Ashiok is not going to survive, put Heir of the Wilds into play, and you know, you pay 3 mana for Heir of the Wilds, which is not insane, but it's still pretty reasonable.
Right, and you're going to gain a bunch of life because Sperling is going to want to attack Ashiok here. You also kind of force Sperling's hand, like he has to have a 5th mana to activate Fleecemane Lion, or else he really can't attack with it. And there's a Perilous Vault. So yeah, this is also a concession to the fact that Andrew knows that Ashiok's not going to be around for long.
Ashiok did gain, you know, some amount of life. If Sperling attacks with both creatures, you're getting something like 5 to 7 life.
Sure. Just distracting the
basically
the
a kitchen
here.
fix.
It's a kitchen fix.
3 mana, put a 2/2 Death Touch into play, gain 5 life. I mean, that card would be amazing.
Blue-black kitchen fix.
Yeah.
I like it.
If I ever got to play in one of the invitationals, the card I wanted to submit was blue, 2/4 flying, come to play, gain 4 life. The card wouldn't even be good anymore. This was like 7 years ago, and also I don't think it's a particularly blue design.
It's just offensive to the color pie.
Yeah, it makes no sense. But this is me when I was playing Phloxodon Hierarchs, but wanting to also play blue cards.
And then they put a kitchen finks, and you were like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, you can just play Kitchen Finks and Wraths, and it's all good.
All right, so Sperling does have the 5th mana. You see it hit, and in he comes. Andrew Brown's at 21 life. I'm assuming, like, I actually don't know where Sperling's attacking here.
Given there's a Perilous Vault in play,
Like,
I assume just attacking
Ashiok
Andrew.
going to go away? Ashiok's going to end up going away anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's going to force Sperling to use monsters here and basically time walk him, as we say.
So Andrew Brown is trading a Perilous Vault and a Ashiok for a Fleecemane Lion and a Rakshasa.
And a turn.
And they both spent some amount of time doing things.
Yeah, I mean, he had to use his turn too.
He does get an additional 3 mil value.
Which is unlikely to matter, but always possible.
Yeah, it generally doesn't. I think one of the things you have to really be careful in evaluating is Ashiok plus 2ing isn't getting 3 of your opponent's cards.
It just does nothing.
I mean, it removes 3 random cards from the top, but that's not the same thing. So now both creatures are coming in. Sperling really wants to give Andrew incentive to use the Perilous Vault, because otherwise Andrew just gets to cast Jason's Ingenuity and do the same thing over again. The fact that Ashiok didn't exile any creatures this turn is very relevant, because if he had, then Sperling would have probably wanted to attack the Ashiok, and it would make using Perilous Vault much more appealing.
Right, and I think that Andrew's going to trade a big chunk of life here to be able to keep that Perilous Vault up and sack it at end step, so that Sperling doesn't get to make a follow-up play here, and when Andrew passes a turn back, he's going to be facing a completely empty board with probably 6 mana and a bunch of cards in hand.
I mean, this is what we've seen these decks try to do all day. We've watched a number of matches. We watched Andrew Brown round 1, and paying life to use Perilous Vault in a more efficient way is a pretty common play, because now you untap and have Dissolve or Disdainful Stroke up that really help you stabilize the board.
That's right. So things looking good for Andrew Brown to take down Sperling. This thing's not over yet, but
certainly not.
You gotta love where Andrew's at this point.
It's turn 6, and Andrew Brown is at 10, and Sperling doesn't quite yet have a board, though there's a Siege Rhino on the stack.
There's also a Dissolve in hand at least. Now, it looks like Andrew's actually decided if he wants to use Hero's Downfall on it and just take the 3 hit here.
It's annoying to get hit for 3, but let's say Sperling plays a Sorin and you dissolve the Siege Rhino, then your Hero's Downfall doesn't trade nearly as well. Andrew also may have something like Dig Through Time or Jace's Ingenuity, take this turn to cast that, then untap, and be able to use Hero's Downfall and dissolve in the same turn.
Right, but instead he just does fire off the Downfall, so he's still using his life total as a resource here, and he's willing to go down pretty low with it. I mean, he doesn't want to get into Siege Rhino range. Speaking of Siege Rhino, as we've discovered,
Siege Rhino range is vast, as we've
yes,
found out.
They are a pack animal, and there's always another Siege Rhino. Here's Dissolve.
It's dissolving his top card as well.
Yeah, it went down to the bottom. Land for Sperling, but no follow-up play. Passes a turn back, and Andrew's deciding, well, do I want to crack this Delta or not?
Yeah, the funny thing is, cracking the Delta didn't actually thin his deck, because he just put an island on the bottom. So,
right.
So he knows he's not drawing it anyway.
Right.
And even if even if it wasn't an island, cracking a Delta after you scryed 1 card to the bottom, yeah, it prevents you from drawing the land, but it also means you can draw this card that you presumably scryed to the bottom.
Right, so it's kind of even. Here's Dismal Backwater to go back up to 7 for Andrew.
7's nice. It's a lot nicer than 6.
Yeah.
And Sperling's hand is, at this point, looks like a Temple, an Urborg, and a Murderous Cut. It's really not where he wants to be.
Just a miserable hand for Matt Sperling here, trying to win this GP, but he's down a game, and wow, Jace's Ingenuity for Andrew Brown.
Prolic Ancient plus Thoughtseize. So Andrew Brown might be able to, he has enough mana that he can certainly fire off the Thoughtseize and then decide what to do from there.
Does he even need to fire off the Thoughtseize? Like, what's the upside of that? Sperling's clearly out of threats.
He is, but one of the cards that Sperling could still have in hand is something like Murderous Cut or Hero's Downfall. So I think if you're going to ever play the Prolic Ancient, you might as well fire off Thoughtseize first.
But isn't the strength of Prolic Ancient that it doesn't die to cards like that?
It is. That's one of the bonuses, but you might as well trade a Thoughtseize for that card while you have the opportunity to do so.
I see. So the 2 life isn't that relevant, so you'd rather just trade it off. You know that Sperling's going to cast any threat that he draws anyway.
So this is a rare opportunity where Andrew Brown is able to dissolve Abzan Charm to deprive Sperling of drawing extra cards. Usually you're under the gun so much that you don't get a chance to do that.
Yeah.
But now is not the case. Prolic Ancient, I think, is going to be coming out here pretty soon.
Yeah, if not, it's going to be another Jace's Ingenuity for Andrew Brown. And it looks like he might just run away with this thing. There's the Ancient.
Yeah, we're only a couple turns away. I mean, if Sperling does not draw a number of good cards in a row, actually.
Yeah. So this could be the winning Leviathan that we see here on the battlefield.
It's possible that Andrew wanted to main phase Jace's Ingenuity to do an extra point of damage off Prowess there. The Fleecemane line is actually one of the cards that is relevant here. Andrew does have a Bioblight, it looks like, so he has to be careful to not let it monstrous, because then it just blocks Prolic Ancient. But right now, Sperling isn't it quite enough mana? He's 1 mana short of double monstrosing, and Andrew already had the Bioblight in hand.
Yeah, he already had it. Sperling had to go for it before
Certainly.
he drew 3 more cards, but he had to take the risk. But Andrew Brown had a plan, and Prolic Ancient's going to take at least half of Matt Sperling's life total away here with this attack. And Sperling has to draw a miracle. I have no idea what he could even
He's
draw
got one
here.
draw step, but even if it's a creature, it still just blocks Prolic Ancient. And, well, now we might see a disappearing act. Prolic Ancient jumps back to Andrew Brown's hand, Perilous Vault goes off, exiles the Death Dealer, then comes back down in a few turns.
Yeah.
The cool thing is that Andrew Brown also gets to reuse his enter the battlefield abilities of all his lands by bouncing Prolic Ancient. So he gets to, keep scrying, gaining some life. it's just a little edge.
It is small edges, although right now it feels like Andrew Brown has a very, very big edge.
If he has a Hero's Downfall here, he can tap the Death Dealer. He's looking at his mana, trying to decide how he wants to play things here, because he does have a mana-intensive plan that involves bouncing Pearl Lake Ancient.
Thankfully for Andrew, he has enough lands that we can't even fit him on our screen. So... Whoop! So he taps 3, floating 3 mana. He's going to have to return 3 lands to his hand here.
Returning 3 enter the battlefield lands with cool abilities.
Pay the 2 more, so that makes 5 total.
He's one short of replaying the Pearl Lake Ancient, but he's going to get to replay it next turn.
He's not in a hurry. I mean,
yeah, he's under no pressure.
Right.
He is at 6. You know, running Siege Rhinos could actually do it still.
Sure.
Though he's got the Dismal Backwater in hand, so if the first one comes down, he's got a turn to play the second. And there we have it.
And that's going to do it. Matt Sperling extends the hand, and Andrew Brown, still a cool customer, is our champion.